The force is rather strong with you, and sometimes it pays to be a villain. Welcome to RGR Football. The Chiefs win up in the frozen north. Seth was on hand. We'll hear from him later in the week. We hope you guys will enjoy this. Dan kind of had it planned out. So if you tweeted this and you were looking for a villain, well, here I am. This is why, because this makes a lot of sense, Dan. I like it. Explain
awesome.
to me this one for the non-Star Wars geeks.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, I'm just an absolute Star Wars nerd, and everything about the Chiefs right now is villainous. Everyone, when something doesn't happen their way, it's because the referees are with the Chiefs. The NFL will never let this happen to the Chiefs. They are the villains of the NFL, and this is the Mac Daddy villain of them all, Emperor Palpatine, the baddest MFer on the planet, and he can just never dies. So guess what? Chiefs right now are the villains of the NFL.
And I'm just okay with that.
Loving it. And I will say this. I forgive every single Patriots fan over the last 18 years. I forgive every single one of them because you know what? They were right. They were absolutely right to do what they did and be the way they were. Hats off. Loving every second of it.
That's awesome. Well, we hope you guys had a good time. Clearly, this was a ball game that was maybe more stressful than we wanted it to be, especially when my camera goes crazy because I'm trying to zoom the thing correctly. A lot of concerns, and I know you guys want to talk to them. We're going to cover our notes. We're going to get to your questions tonight. If we don't get to everyone's question, make sure you come back tomorrow night because same time, same place, 7 Central tomorrow. We'll have our live Q&A every Monday night is what we do. Every super chat tonight gets an answer. Thundarius, I know you're already in the queue. We're going to get to you guys in a minute. We're going to start with big takeaways. And for me, it was somebody in Arrowhead Drive has been listening because this was the game plan that we've been talking about. They got the quick game going. They spread the ball around. They had balance. It was still 34% run call. Pacheco was still involved, 16 carries on the night. Mahomes was smooth. He was quicker. When he did fade back in the pocket, he underthrew a few passes. I'm not trying to say he was perfect, but this was when you take your shots, you have to make that exception, right? Otherwise, he was quick and decisive and got the ball out of his hands, and that's what I needed him to do. I came away really happy with the way they approached this game. How did you feel?
Yeah, the offense did everything that we talked about leading up to. You take some deep shots because if you don't, the defense will never respect it. There was 3 or 4 of them in this game. And they completed a couple of them, and and honestly, the deep shots don't even have to be all the way down the field. They have to be some hole shots in between zone coverage down the sidelines. We saw the Chiefs go and do that a little bit, and Patrick Mahomes definitely looked comfortable, except, the ankle thing popping back up. That's going to be something that just it looks like it's going to happen almost every week, every other week, and he's going to have to deal with it as the season goes on. Hopefully, people stop falling onto his ankles, and the tackles can continue to get better and not throw people on him. I have a sticker on my arm from my daughter.
It happens.
Just found that. It's a kangaroo. Very cool. Kangaroos.
Does it say
awesome.
McD on it?
It doesn't. It doesn't say McD, but he's somebody else that we're going to talk about because my big takeaway from this game was that, the defense is when they're following Spag's game plan, they're fantastic, okay? Like the game plan they set up for the game, not the game plan when the team's up 2 touchdowns or up a touchdown. That's not the game plan when they're good. Like, that's not it. When they're doing what Spags has laid out for a close game, they're fantastic. They get after the quarterback. They mix up their blitzes. They mix up their coverages, and they get after wide receivers. They were physical today. L'Jarius Sneed was all up in Justin Jefferson's face. Yes, I know we got a penalty, and we'll talk about the penalties, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm personally okay with that specific one because I don't care. It was an accident with the hand. He was trying to be physical. It's going to happen every now and then. You're going to miss. But I love the way that the most of the cornerbacks played in this football game. I think Justin Reed had a good day guarding TJ Hawkinson. They really did a good job for the most part of being physical. And not, when the game was being managed, when it was close, they were doing their job. They were really getting after it. And then we saw the foot come up a little bit. And Spags was like, hey, we're going to play off. We're not going to blitz. That has to stop. I'm going to tell you right now,
Yeah.
the game plan has to be the game plan all the way through. You're going to get the best shot from these teams every single time. You play off coverage, they're going to march down the field every single time. That crap has to stop.
Yeah. And it's a natural tendency. You've been in the league a long time. Spags knows when he feels comfortable. And unfortunately, when he feels comfortable isn't quite enough as maybe it was in years past. And that's what I think we need to like temper it with. That's what we're talking about. It's not that you're doing something wrong. It's just that you're not doing what you're doing right long enough. That's what it comes down to. And I think when we take a look overall at what did go on here, it was the defense's story to begin with. You guys practice with me. Mick D. MCD, because that's what I'm going to start calling him. You're going to see my notes here in a second because that's the way I'm writing it now because I just can't keep up otherwise because I'm a terrible typist. You guys know that already. But he's all over the notes, and that's the takeaway. And you see that he's got a couple here. That early double blitz where he actually hit Cousins, that was maybe one of my favorite plays of the day because Spags was all gas. There was at least 3 times he sent both corners. By my count.
I think there was 4 or 5.
Yeah,
there were 4 or 5 times where he was like, hey, y'all, just go. I don't care.
It's nuts. And it worked. And when you come down to the stats at the end of the day, I wanted to show this to everybody first. Trent McDuffie, 6 tackles on the day, credited with 3 QB hits and 3 PBUs. There's nothing more you can ask from a corner than that, especially given the fact that he only, compared with he and Snead together, only gave Justin Jefferson 50% completion rating and 28 yards. The best receiver in football. And let's be real. I know there's some Tyreek lovers still out there, and Tyreek's great. Justin Jefferson's the best wide receiver overall in this league. Yep. And that is a hell of a day for these 2 corners, especially when you consider in this offseason, we don't know what's going to happen. It may be that Trent McDuffie is your CB1 going forward and the foundation of that secondary for the next 10 years.
Right now, L'Jarius Sneed's playing really well. The last 2 games where they've asked him to be at the outside cornerback and to just basically follow the number 1 receiver, which he's doing, by the way. He's pretty much following the number 1 receiver, which is not indicative of a Spags defense. He doesn't typically do that. He doesn't travel his corners. But guess what? L'Jarius Sneed has answered the call these last 2 weeks and has been their number 1 outside corner. And they have finally done what we've been asking them to do for years. Play physical. You have these long athletic quarters. Let them get up to the line of scrimmage. Let them be physical with these wide receivers. Offenses built on timing. 95% of offenses are built on timing, especially passing offenses. You throw that off, guess what? That leaves Kirk Cousins in the pocket longer. Early in the game when they were being physical, they weren't playing off coverage. They were getting after Kirk Cousins. They were getting the sacks. They were making plays on the ball, making them get out of their situations. They're not as accurate. And we saw that happen near the end of the game when they're blitzing Trent McDuffie and the ball is going all the way out of the end zone because it's going up. He's having to get the ball out before he wants to. That's the kind of style of play that the Chiefs need to continue to play with. And right now, I know that Snead's not getting interceptions, and McDuffie isn't either, but their value on the open market, specifically Snead's, is getting higher. Right now, his value is getting higher because he's playing extremely well. And I don't think that you can reasonably say that he's not going to be somebody with a market in the offseason. So right now, you can't really ask for much else of what they've done on the outside for this team.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's sad to say, but today we just have to reap the benefits of it and have a good time with it, because if you guys missed it, what we do on Fridays is lay out our game plan, what we would do and what we want and expect the team to do. So if you're missing those, make sure you're there. We've been doing them live this year, which is kind of a new touch, and we're going back and forth. A lot of people are enjoying them. So make sure you're ready for Friday afternoons when we get a live stream that gives you what we want to see. And then we can come back and you'll know what we're talking about when we get here on post game, because there is a lot going around with it. And Steve, yes, it does look like it's getting better and better and better with the McDuffie draft pick. And hey, I wish this was the top and we could just say, hey, it's a success. It's not. He's going to get better.
Yeah.
There's no way around. I think that is the sledgehammer that we have to have, because man, with those 2 guys, Snead before him and honestly Tyron before Snead, and now McDuffie following. Like having the ability to blitz out of the nickel is nearly game changing every single week.
Yeah, they do it all the time. Like it's not just Snead, it's not just McDuffie. It can be Watson, or it can be Williams, or it can be Reed, or it can be Cook. They can put anybody, any one of those corners in the slot, and they can just blitz them. Like that's the real reality here. The Chiefs defense is trying to be much like the Chiefs offense in the sense that you don't know who's coming on any play. You don't know who's getting the ball on any play. That's how they want to operate. That's how they want the defense to operate as well. So that's just another layer into what the Chiefs are hoping to develop with this defense. They want to be able to, yes, get home with 4 is great. They want to develop their young players, but they also want to be able to throw their games out there and say, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's coming. You don't know where it's coming from. And when you can do that week in and week out, it makes, Patrick was talking about it in the pressers. It makes their defense so difficult to prepare for because you really don't know what's happening. And I told you guys you were going to see some weird stuff from good old I just forgot his name. I can see his face too.
That guy.
Yeah, that guy, the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah. You're gonna see some weird stuff. Yeah, there we go. Brian Flores.
Mr. Brian Flores.
So yeah, and they were able to generate some stuff. And Patrick was talking about how it was difficult to prepare for them this week. You don't see a whole lot of what you're gonna see coming at you every week from Flores. So it makes them extremely tough to battle against. And that's what you're seeing week in and week out from this Chiefs defense.
I agree. And hey, Thundarius, thank you for the super chat, buddy. Nice to see you. And I'm glad you were sporting the props on the KC gear down there. And from what I heard, I was piggybacking on BJ this morning about tailgating scene. Evidently, the bar is the place to be when you go to a game in Minnesota because it makes sense. Most of the year you can't see your breath because it freezes in icicle instantly. So well done. I'm glad you had a good time, and I hope you're feeling well, buddy. Nice to see you. I would address the flip side. There were a lot of good takeaways today. We're going to hit them all. We're going to talk about the big one here in just a minute. But I want to get back. Hopefully, I can present this because it wasn't all super roses. There are other things that we have to discuss because as good as Trent McDuffie was, it does get you to the point where, especially with the blitz and especially with being in the position where you have to be able to verify that if you send X guy, whether it's Snead, whether it's McDuffie, whether it's both, you have the rest of the coverage on tap. Like it has to be good enough to cover. And I think this is gonna actually take over the audio, but you guys check this out because this is one of the things that I was concerned with. Here on Jalen Watson, watch him at the bottom of the screen as he's in position for this pass, but doesn't even react to it. And you're gonna see it on replay. That's a problem. Locating the ball seems to be more trouble for Jalen Watson this season than we previously have seen. Doesn't even see the ball coming in to the target. And unfortunately, that's something I didn't want to see from Jalen. I'm a big proponent of him. He doesn't seem to be on his game like he was last season. And so you have to take the good with the bad. And as a secondary, that leaves you with a couple of chinks that you still have to work out.
Yeah, I even have, Josh Williams early in my notes. He had a really great play on the edge early, and then he came back on that 4th down and he falls down. Like they're still trying to figure out who this third cornerback is, and not one of them is really taking it. Although I think Williams played better after he fell down. You didn't really see him be challenged a ton. They were going after Watson. That kind of tells you who the team wanted to attack in the secondary, and it was Jalen Watson. He doesn't look comfortable, and that's something that we heard about during training camp, that that Watson and Williams weren't taking the step that they expected them to, and that's why you saw Najee Johnson coming up and playing the way that he was, because he was like, I'm ready to take this, and unfortunately, ended with that injury. So they've had to turn to both Williams and Watson when maybe they were going to go a different direction. And right now, I think Williams has embraced that opportunity that was given to him and given to Watson. And Watson has kind of waned in that and hasn't been able to play the way that he did last year. And maybe it has to do with the fact they're playing more man coverage, a little bit more man coverage than maybe he wants to. And because they're blitzing, when you blitz, you're pretty much putting these guys on islands and man-on-man coverage. And Williams plays a little bit better, and I think Watson's the better zone corner. So that seems to be the issue, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and that makes perfect sense. And for whatever it is, a sophomore slump is understandable. It happens quite a bit. So I'm in no way saying that
Yeah.
this is a lost cause. Jalen Watson will recover. I have faith in that because he's not playing as aggressively and as well as he did at Wazoo. And I know that there's upside in his game still. So I just think it's about fitting in a little bit more, understanding a little bit more, and just being a little bit more aware. That play in particular, and I'm sorry, you guys, if it was choppy there on the upload. It didn't look like it was terribly smooth. I'll put that back up to the channel as one of my shorts this week. I have another one already to go for you, but you'll see some of the instant film clips that I've done. They'll get your whistle wetted there for you. You can wait for Dan on Wednesday and you can walk through the whole thing. But there'll be a little bit of clip there. I want to get to some of your questions here before we get too far behind because you guys know me. It's going to happen. And I think we'll start with PK. What do you think Ross today, despite his drops? I think he could be our beast. I love that they put a go-get-it ball in there. I wouldn't call it a 50-50 or a contested catch because I think he had enough separation, but just let him do what he does. And I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, that was it was a nice play on 2nd and 17. You draw up a zone beater down the sideline in between the zone. That was a fantastic way to use his size and his athleticism to your advantage. The problem is that you're seeing the limited route tree. There's a very big reason that he's not involved more is because he basically works the sideline. They have no slants, they have no digs, they have no anything else besides goes, curls, comebacks, stuff like that that's towards the sideline. And then you saw something that's very troubling to me is that he let two balls that were not away from his body hit him in the chest. That's bad catching technique. And that's not just concentration. That's him
I agree.
not
it is
putting his hands out.
Dan will be back in a second, I'm sure. Corbin, I wouldn't call it a breakout game, but I would call it a positive step forward. I really do feel like that was something that we were hoping to see, and we got confirmation of that. Looks like Dan dropped all the way out, so we're going to be a minute before he's back. But I think what it does do is it sets you up to have more, to understand that you do need to have more of him in the game plan. He did get, by my count, third highest number of targets. Kelce with 11, came in with Tony at 6. Oh, I'm sorry. She had 5, and then Ross. So 4th in targets. That's not terrible, Dan.
Okay, so right now your mic is going in and out a little bit. I'm getting a little bit of a robot voice from you, and
okay,
I think that your internet's stuttering a little bit. So why don't you back out, reload? I'm gonna get back to my Justin Ross stuff, and that way we can kind of situate this in
rock
and
and
out.
roll.
So Ryan's gonna be back in a second here, and I'll take off what I said about Justin Ross. And so basically what we're seeing with Justin Ross is that he's got a very limited package that the offense is running him out with. It's a lot of go balls, it's a lot of curls, it's a lot of hitches, things that are one dimensional up the sideline, up the right hand sideline, up the left hand sideline, or he's just being asked to run that hitch against off coverage. That's not a bad thing. It just limits his ability and availability for the offense when you're not able to move around and be used in multiple ways. And the second most troubling thing about that whole process was that his catching technique, if it's not away from his body, it's a little too open. He let the ball travel into his chest, and that's just poor catching technique. And I understand that he was crowded a little bit on one or both of his drops. That's if you have your hands in the right spot, you're going to catch those every time, even with somebody around you. He's got hands away from his body. He can catch those. It's all about the technique. Are his hands too far away? Is he not bringing them in far enough when the ball's there? But if you're waiting for the ball to hit you in the hands and you're not attacking the football, you're going to have far more drops than anything. And right now, that's the difference between him and Rashee Rice, is that Rashee Rice, while he's having those drops, he's still attacking the football. We're not seeing it just bounce off his chest multiple times a game. You're seeing him go after it with his hands. So there's got to be some improvement in that regard. But the fact that they used him and targeted him 4 times is still a good thing. That we're seeing a little bit more improvement in that direction. So just trying to throw a little bit of understanding that, yeah, he's going to have some of those ups and downs a little bit, but I think that his usage overall was better. So, and now that Ryan's going to pop back in here, and again, thank you, PK, for the super chat. We appreciate that.
Very much so. Sorry for the delays there, folks. You know, nothing's ever smooth as butter, especially around here. So we're making the best that we can with it.
It's the Colorado internet.
You got to love it. Do I sound better, I hope?
A little bit better, yeah.
Okay. We'll cross our fingers here. Back to Jackson and the rest of the wide receivers. I love that you bring this up, Jackson, because I actually felt like Tony did better than I've seen lately. I was more comfortable with it. He still has that propensity to get a quick out or that small screen with just one blocker, right? And his first instinct is to juke instead of just getting some momentum forward, whereas juke can pay off more. Yeah. So I still feel like he's not quite up to speed, but I was encouraged by him. And I agree with you. The slant. There was that red zone drive. They went back-to-back slants to Ross and then Rice. Ross had the drop there. It was one of the ones you were talking, getting into his chest. And Rice had an issue in running the route a little bit before when he didn't quite finish it. And I wouldn't even say that he didn't finish it. I just think he allowed the defender to slow his momentum too much. You know what I mean? He didn't fight through the contact as much. Tony Romo made it sound like he kind of quit on the route. I didn't feel like that, but that's fine. Either way, he had that issue, and then he comes back after the Ross drop and hits that slant and gets in whatever you want to call it. Like if that's his route for the touchdown, if that's Mahomes making an excellent throw, either way, you got the job done. And I think that's bottom line. So I was encouraged by Tony. I was encouraged by Rice even more myself. Dan, how did you feel about him?
Yeah, so Rashee Rice is definitely the guy. Like he's the guy. Like I fully believe that yes, he's not getting the snaps, but I think he's going to be the wide receiver that gets focused upon going forward. Like he's clearly the guy they want with the ball in their hands. And I'm still saying they have not unleashed him down the field. They have not. It's coming. I promise you, the double move is coming 100% because they have run a ton of these routes underneath. They're going to put him somewhere and let him go post and corner or post and go. Like that's what they're going to do. They need to do that at some point. So he's going to get it. And Rashee Rice, I think we saw today, the concentration drops kind of went away. Like he was the one that was behind him a little bit on that 13-yard catch that he had. That was a fantastic snap. But that's why we've talked about saying it's probably going to go away because he attacks the ball. He attacks the ball. And that's what he's doing well. So he's not getting all the snaps right now, but they will get there as the season goes along.
Yeah, I agree. And I was encouraged by Skyy Moore's usage early. It didn't come through. He was 2 for 2. He had no problems. He looked like he was getting enough separation. He wasn't lost. He wasn't. When I saw him running routes, especially on backside, it looked like he would have been a viable option. Just wasn't the primary reads. That's what my big takeaway is. Is it time to officially panic about him? Like you were talking about, Cody? Maybe. I'm just not sure if this isn't just a prioritization issue that they feel like maybe they know what they have in Skyy. And so they're still trying to figure out Ross and Rice in particular, trying to get Tony back, trying to put that emphasis on getting him some reps. I don't know. I think Dan's a little more worried than I am, but I think concern is still a legitimate option here.
Yeah, you have to be concerned about the usage. I'll be very honest with you. They targeted Justin Ross more than they targeted Skyy Moore today. Every single wide receiver that got out there got more targets than Skyy Moore, who's running more routes. What's going on? Why is he not being targeted? I want to know why. And again, if you guys watched my film review, you see it's not just that he's not getting open. He's not even being looked at. Almost ever on most of these concepts. He's not be a first target, and it's not it's not like he's not getting open, but his route usage is so weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You're having him run routes that aren't his strength. They're just not.
Right.
Whip routes and these underneath curls, hitches. I don't want to see him running those unless you've got 10 yards of cushion and you're going to throw it to him right away. No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's why I was encouraged about Tony, because when you saw him on all these whip routes, by the way, folks, the same thing as pivot routes. I'll use them interchangeably and we'll cross you up all the time. Different offenses call them different things. Same concept, though. Hard cut, come out, or the opposite, or whatever. And so, like, I'm hoping that what we saw Tony run in running a few of those today will start to drift Skyy out of that role. Knock on wood. We'll see.
Let's hope.
Oh, in terms of the seam, Peyton, it's good that you bring this up because there's a lot of folks around here and all over the interwebs that wanted Justin Watson out of town in the preseason. Justin Watson makes plays, and he's the guy that's the seam threat, not MVS. I think MVS is a strictly outside the hash type guy. That's my feeling personally, Dan. You tell me what you've seen or if you disagree.
No, I think you're absolutely right. The guy that's up, I think Rashee Rice can do that. I think Justin Ross can do that too. I think those three guys can all run those routes. Honestly, depending on the coverage you're seeing, we saw Skyy do it against the Rams last year too, where he noticed that the coverage was cover two, and he went up the seam instead of adjusting his route to the outside. I just don't see MVS doing much. You know, I predicted him to lead the Chiefs in receiving yards, and guess what? We have a big old whopper almost for him. He's not doing much for this offense right now. And while Watson and MVS bring a speed deep element to this offense, one of them needs to go from being the most run routes on this team. One of the two. Keep one of them. Having both is almost redundant to this point, especially when they're both on the field. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
It seems to me that like you're keeping MVS. Like if I'm Andy Reid, if I'm in the room, it feels like the concept is we're keeping MVS for the day that we need him, because he will make a big play for us later down this line. It may just be one. We'll need it, and he'll do it. And I just don't know if that's justifiable in the long run.
I mean, he drew the pass interference on fourth down.
True.
He did. He made a big play there. That's a huge play on fourth down. But also, I hate that play. I hate it. It's the worst call almost in all of sports because it's an underthrown football, and there's nothing the DB can do. You're just saying, basically giving them the finger. We don't care.
Yeah.
It's an underthrown football. It's on the quarterback, but we don't care.
Quarterback hosed you. Good luck. Be on your way. Knicks fan, you do have a good point. Like Watson did make an incredible effort to come back to it as well.
Oh, for sure.
But on the MVS one, it was pretty ugly, I gotta tell you. Yes, Watson is dramatically cheaper than MVS. Look for him to stay in here this coming season. I want to hit a couple real quick because then we got to get to the big talk and we have super chats we have to answer. But before we get, let's revisit this. Who would you like to? Whose play did you like more, Snead or McDuffie's?
I think I liked McDuffie's play more, but I think Snead was just almost invaluable because of the way he played on Justin Jefferson today. Like I think McDuffie played an all-around excellent football game everywhere and in everything. But with Snead in this football game against Justin Jefferson, his was a more valuable overall impact on the game because of the way they were able to shut down Justin Jefferson until his injury.
I'll put it this way. L'Jarius Snead allowed Trent McDuffie to have his day.
That's true.
Otherwise, McDuffie would have had to been out on Jefferson. And maybe it doesn't go as smoothly. I got to tell you.
Maybe.
I like the edge L'Jarius brings. I love that.
Yeah.
The fact that he was able to take his helmet off and not get a flag. And I'll tell you why, because people have been hitting me up on Twitter all damn night since then. It's very, very simple. He did take his helmet off. The possession was over, and I know the broadcast talked about it. All of that is true, and that's fine. The bigger thing is he took his helmet off and he said, "How?" And that's it. He wasn't running to the ref. He wasn't screaming at him. He just said, "How?" And he just wanted an explanation. And I think the tone of that, which is a good thing because he's been a lot more aggressive in years past, by just asking that, then the ref that he was looking at is the one who said, "Hey, put your helmet back on, dummy." And that is the reason why I don't think there was a penalty.
How you handle situations with referees is how it's going to go. If you take your helmet off and you throw it on the ground in frustration, how did that happen? But if you just take it off and you're like, "What's going on, man? Like, how help me help you? Like, can you give me something here?" And that's how it's going to handle it. Yes, by the book, it's a penalty. It absolutely is. And I get why Kevin O'Connell was screaming his head off. I absolutely do. 100%. It's by the book, it's a penalty. And yes, the Chiefs should have been flagged for it. And they still would have had the ball with 1st and 10. So at the end of the day, it didn't matter all that much that the penalty wasn't called. But yes, it should have been called. But the way that it was handled is how it goes. And yes, you're right here, Arg. So matters So manners matter. Yes, they do. A little bit of a tongue twister there.
Tracy girls, if you're watching tonight, remember this. It's like I say that to you every week. You got to parent when you can parent, folks. And speaking of parenting, if you guys want to get a little bit more adaptive, some more content coming out on the beer scene. Dan and I are going to do some food stuff. You guys want to go over to RGR Craft and get subbed, because when we're not talking ball, we generally drift towards these kind of conversations about food and beer and whiskey and wine and that kind of thing. That's what we're doing over there. You might even see some stuff I haven't done in a long time, but go check out RGR Life Tech as well. We have a bunch of channels that nobody remembers because we're always so consumed with football. This is why. The Snead McDuffie conversation is exactly why. But there are others. So let's go speed round on this because there's a lot of questions. Terry, I like the way you put it. Why do we still use Clyde? I asked that questions in my notes. If you want my notes, you can join the memberships and you can get them. Chiefster was talking about, Paco equals Red Bull, plays like a superstar. And you're absolutely right. It's the energy that it brings. And Sean was talking about, I know that the team wants to use him on every time, but the entire offense stalls. I love the guy. I agree with you. Like, I want him to be successful, but it comes down to this. He is running harder. He has been challenged by Pacheco's success, and he is running harder, especially after contact. But he just ain't got no juice. Then that's just the way it is. You tell me if I'm missing something, Dan.
I think the injuries have zapped any short area burst he used to have, because his rookie season, he had some short area burst. Absolutely no doubt was left there. But for whatever reason, it's all gone. Like, it's whatever it's the injuries, if he's just not confident in his own ability, all of that stuff is just not very fair to Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now. So he's just not having a great time right now.
No, but I give him credit. His leg drive is like it was at LSU. Like he's trying to earn every yard that he has because he has to. So it is what it is. But man, it's got to get better. Okay, so let's see here. Kyle, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate the support as we do for every super chatter. Make sure you like, sub, hit the bell. If you're not in the chat tonight, you can be in it. We'll hit some of the other questions, but we'll hit a ton of them tomorrow night. Every topic will be addressed. Every super chat, get an answer. If you were a Vikes fan, would you not say that the bad drop passes cost the game more than the Chiefs defense? Seems like a lot went through their fingers. There were definitely some, but I will say that it was a harassing Chiefs defense that caused Cousins to be a little bit off all the time. He's generally a pretty accurate quarterback, so I don't know that they're used to that. And B, the presence of those hits, I do feel like the physicality of the Chiefs secondary brought to the game had those wide receivers a little bit on edge. That's just my takeaway, but I see where you're coming from, Kyle. Dan, am I crazy?
No, I think you're absolutely right. When you're used to playing the ball here or here, like out in front of you, like Kirk Cousins usually delivers it, it makes a difference when you're trying to and then catch up over here with your arms outstretched. And multiple times you saw the ball being thrown high. And that was direct correlation of somebody being right in his face, because you can't throw the ball this way. You have to now lean back and kind of go up a little bit. And that's going to take the trajectory up a little bit. Okay. And I'm just going to get this out of the way, because where is it? Chief Boy, Kareem Hunt had 4.6 speed coming out too. Just letting you know.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. People were crying about Jordan Addison not having speed. Well, look what he did. And if you guys didn't know who Jordan Addison was, you should have joined us on Friday, because we broke it down for you. When they try to take away Jeff and they take away Hawk, they're going to Jordan Addison. And he's going to be their star of the future. This is going to be a tandem the Chiefs are going to have to deal with, because if they figure out the quarterback thing, that team has it. That team can press for the NFC Championship game, in my opinion, if they get a quarterback that can actually deliver.
I'm with you. I don't disagree at all. I think that right now they're just in this weird not rebuilding season that they thought they could compete with, but they're pretty much done.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, a couple others, and we're going to hit the big topic of Travis Kelce. So bear with us for a second. We're just going to get some out of the way because we know it's going to take a while. Let's ask for some bad play calls on our offense. Offense looked much better in the game. These Vikings record doesn't show that they can battle out, and so we did well, and it was a good game. G, you have a very good point. This is a tough team. They've had bad breaks. They're a tough team, and that defense does play hard. I think they showed that. And I think the fact that there were guys kind of, again, around Patrick's feet quite a lot really say something about that.
Yeah, it was – Flores did a great job with this game. It's ridiculous. Like, He did a fantastic job just moving blitzes all over the place, coming off. He got multiple clean runners off the edges multiple times. Like it makes everything more difficult. So at the end of the day, like being able to, I think that the offense had some spurts here and there, but overall they played much better in this game than they have in any game not called the Bears defense. This was a turn in the right direction, in my opinion. I do have some questions about the end of game antics. I was not a fan of a lot of the decision making that happened at the end of this football game. This shouldn't really have been close, but Andy Reid and the coaching staff at times put that within reach for the Vikings to come into, in my opinion.
Yeah, and just leave no doubt. Stop screwing around. You don't have to worry about their feelings. This isn't Little League. I don't care if they go home crying, and you shouldn't either, Andy. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. Yeah. Kyle, thank you for your super chat. We appreciate you. I just wanted to make sure I got that back up there. So cheers, buddy.
Appreciate you, Kyle.
Okay. Quick one about contracts. Should KC be trying to extend Triangle right now? How much would it cost? And seems like a good Bolton Day free agent insurance. I think he's shown enough. Yeah. I don't think it'll happen in season because when you're on that kind of contract, it doesn't generally go. But yes, I think they should bring him back. I think, honestly, Willie's playing pretty solid, but I don't think he's getting a big contract. So I think you can get him back on a fairly good contract for the team as well.
Yeah, absolutely could. I think that this room with those 4 linebackers is great, and you could have that going forward, and that would be very, very solid. And you can continue to build around. It's young, it's fast, it's good. I think they could do something with that.
I agree. Okay, let's talk about Travis Kelce.
Yep.
What's wrong with the field? So many players from both sides were slipping. Was the grass or something else? It's not actually grass, as far as I understand. It is that turf that has the rubber shred in between the blades. If you overpack that rubber into the field surface, right, and you do take that surface and you mess with it every time. I don't think they take it out. I think they have something they lay over for hockey games, but I'm not 100% on that. But either way, every time you prep for a game, you generally sprinkle a little bit more of that rubber fill here and there and whatever. And if you overfill it, it actually takes the grass from being, a blade that your cleats can connect with and grab into and reduces them. It's like a shave, basically, and you just lose traction that way. It felt like maybe that's what the grounds crew did. I don't know that for a fact. I'm not trying to throw them under the bus. It's just that is a very easy thing to make a small change in the field condition that shows both teams. I think Jefferson had that. I think Pops slipped at least twice that I saw. Luckily, not an injury. I was worried first that Travis was like a re-hyperextension or an MDL from the ankle. But luckily, this high ankle thing, I think that can work. I think that's more an age thing, and that slip is just something that caught him. But it was a bit of a concern.
Yeah, I think we all kind of froze like, oh, no. You can't have a non-contact injury like that. But definitely what moved out, I saw low ankle sprain. I saw low. I don't know about you. Maybe I missaw that. Maybe it was wrong. But regardless, the only thing that I know for an absolute fact is that Travis shook off his injury.
I'll tell you this. I think him and Mahomes both have some solid investments in the coming weeks in cortisol, and the ability to play through this pain is really what high ankle sprains are about. And it isn't systemic damage. It isn't something that's going to ruin the structure of the joint or anything like that. But it is something that's terribly painful and a pain in the butt, to say the truth. And if you missed it, go back and watch Quarterback, because they got some access into the training room with Patrick that I think most people need to see. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's worth seeing, because it is a lot of work to work through that kind of pain, but I do think it's doable. I was concerned specifically that the angle that they thought that it ran up to the knee in the MCL because his knee kind of dipped right there. But I think that was just the catch. And what actually did pulled in the ankle is what that was happening. And I'm glad to see it, because high ankle is a whole lot better than MCL strain. You play through an MCL strain, but it sets the whole knee up for joint laxity, and that's bad. So, dodged. But to go on and tie it in, if it is a high sprain, do you see him playing through it next week? And next week, unfortunately, means Thursday. And I don't think he plays next week.
Again, I'm still seeing low ankle sprain, not high. So the high comes in with the swelling. Watch Quarterback. This very, 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 very useful information for going forward for everybody. The swelling is like going to happen. They're going to get an ankle that looks like this tomorrow. Like if it's in a high ankle sprain, it's going to be huge. And you have 3 days to prep. Travis Kelce likely won't, if it's a high ankle sprain, play, because they will not be able to get the swelling down in time to get him on the field where it's not inhibiting his performance. His value is being able to move quickly in and out of his breaks. Can't be doing that with a high ankle sprain.
Absolutely. And honestly, they shouldn't. They've shown this whole thing with Kadarius Toney, with L'Jarius Sneed, recently with Nick Bolton. They're going to be uber cautious because they know that they have some investments in these players, these caliber players, especially a Hall of Famer like Travis Kelce. It's better to lose a game in the medium by being cautious than cost yourself the rest of the season with that guy's input. So I don't think you see him. He might not even play the next week against the Chargers. I honestly don't know. 10 days rest is usually going to help you out, high, low, or otherwise, but it's all going to be about how Travis reacts to treatment, and we'll just have to go from there. But I think we can breathe a sigh of relief that it isn't generally anything that's going to be. I was concerned, honestly, that there was a possibility there was something else related to the knee that they could then, re-aggravate the bone bruise, because Travis Kelce's bone bruise is not gone yet, folks. It takes 8 to 12 weeks to go away. It's still there. And so if he were to hyperextend that knee again, he would re-injure it all over again. And that would be catastrophic to his season. They would probably have to put him on IR. Just a guess, but let's be glad that they dodged that bullet. And so just keep on trucking with what they do have to deal with. So fingers crossed, he'll be all right. Now, that said, make sure you cross your fingers, get liked and subbed here. And if you're enjoying this chat, make sure that you like the channel, because we hope that you will enjoy that and you'll come back. If you're enjoying a beverage tonight, I'm drinking Majestic Voyage from Avery. It's a IPA, pretty standard, but a little bit of a West Coast flavor. So check that out. You'll see more about that over on the RGR Craft channel. It helps to spread the word. We talk about Chiefsters comment. Tom, how are you, buddy? Did I see us playing man and rolling over zone to Jefferson? There were definitely a lot of man, and I do believe they were cheating Cook a couple of times that I noticed, but safety play is always tough on the broadcast. Maybe they listened to Dan. Yes, maybe they did and got smart.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe just a little bit. I was going to say, I don't think that they bracketed him or anything like that, but they definitely changed what was going, because they don't really run Jefferson on a lot of go routes. So they weren't really worried about him beating them over the top. It was more about the intermediate, throwing off the timing. You can't stop the scheme stuff like that. They actually did a pretty good job of stopping some of the scheme screen passes they had for him, where they jumped the route and they had to go somewhere else with it. You saw that happen a couple different times. But jamming, I spoke specifically about them being physical on Friday. We were like, you got to play physical. Put your hands on them. Use the length.
This is what the Chiefs are doing on purpose with their defensive secondary. Use it. They finally did.
Absolutely. It was great. It was a good job.
Yeah, well done. Do it again. Tom, thank you. Appreciate you, buddy, as always. Callie, appreciate you. Thanks, buddy. Would you say that this is Spag's best coaching so far in the small sample size? I assume you mean of the season. I think that's perfectly arguable. I mean, were they dominant against the Bears? Yeah, but that was the Bears, so I get that. I do think that you got solid contribution. I'm a little concerned, though. I felt like it was a decent matchup for George Karlaftis, and I felt like FAU should have gotten home. I didn't actually see him really brush Cousins tonight, and maybe I just got to watch the 22 and make sure I didn't miss something. But how did you feel about the edges?
Tough.
Yeah.
It was a tough day for the edges. I think that George Karlaftis was a no-show today. I know that he got a couple of run stops. He was closing the run on the run game, but in terms of pass rush, he wasn't really effective. FAU had a free rush on Cousins and absolutely blew him up. But that was not due to him. It was designed that way. The problem is that I think the tackles are pretty good with the Vikings. I know one of them is.
Darisaw is, yeah.
Darrisaw's a fantastic tackle, and he was my tackle 3 coming out of that draft class, and he's showing why right now. He's gotten better every single year. He wasn't very good year 1, but he's gotten better and better, and he was pretty much shut down today from what I saw. So they played well. You know, Karlaftis is not a fast winner. He's not, and that was shown kind of throughout most. I told you guys that Brandon Thorne, who does all of his work over at Trench Warfare, which you should absolutely check out, label him as the guys with the most pressures as the lowest quality of pressures. He doesn't win quickly, and that's just kind of showing itself right now. And Chris was getting just absolutely double teamed to no end. They did not care anymore about putting those guys on islands, except for Chris Jones. They said, we are not letting him get after Kirk Cousins after the second sack. It just wasn't happening. So you got to find a way to get those. If you're not going to blitz at all, they need to get better and they need to get faster. And if FAU is going to take some time, it's going to take some time. He was not start ready. You know, I still had like a high second round grade on him coming out. So those are not immediately starter guys. He's just got to get a little bit better with his pass rush plan of attack. And I think he'll be just fine, but it's tough right now. The tackles did a good job in Minnesota.
And if you guys remember when we talked about Karlaftis and when we talked about FAU, I think I had him FAU below 50 to tell you the truth. It was because of that. It's not that they're not good players. It's because they're specific and they need time because they're not the explosive, quick attack. BJ Thompson's here to provide some of that. Can he grow into a player that can get on the field and actually provide some of that? We won't know until next year. He ain't doing it anytime soon. I'll tell you that. But there is a question of what this future of the defense is going to be. And I hope that it includes some mixed fronts that can take advantage of the stand-up outside linebacker speed rushers that I do think they sorely need.
Yeah, I agree.
Gary, thank you for your super chat, buddy. Appreciate you. These third and short runs up the middle do just not make sense to me. So predictable. You're absolutely right. And they tried to mix it up with 2 Wildcats. One Wildcat is good. Going to it with multiple guys multiple times, I don't think is the way to go myself. But if you're trying to break that mold, Gary, that does make sense because you're right. The predictability is there. The bottom line is come off the damn ball and hit the guy across from him and move him. That's all it has to be. You saw again, and I'm going to break this down for you guys this week on the power poll where I believe it was Clyde last week. I think it was Pacheco tonight where the pullers come across the formation like they're supposed to, but there just ain't nowhere to go. So he has to put his head down and bash through the fact that Creed came off the ball and Donovan Smith came off the ball. And you actually got some push. And that's why that one worked. That's what I think they have to get back to.
It just gets so predictable, you know, that last sequence of plays where they should have gone for it on 4th down, you get second and short. If you're going to run the ball, just throw it. Just throw the ball in 2nd and 2. Or throw the ball in 3rd and 1. Stop taking the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands in some of these high leverage situations. I understand you have to be able to run the ball, and on 2nd and short and 3rd and 1, you got to mix it up sometimes because they did it all night, all day on these short situations. They ran the ball, except for the one play on 4th and 1 where you threw it downfield and you got a penalty.
Yeah,
mix it up a little bit. And that's what, if you want teams to respect that you're not going to run the ball on 3rd and short, or that you can maybe run a little bit out of shotgun, you got to spread them out. You got to make them think you might actually throw the ball. You might have to do it.
Ready.
And then throwing a pop pass on 3rd and 6 was absolutely made me livid. I could not stand that they just threw a little, lob over there on 3rd and 6. That ball has to get out quick.
I agree.
If you're going there on man coverage, it needs to be there now. Give him a
do
chance.
It with some authority. Yeah, do it with some authority. Oh, it was terrible. Greg, thank you for your comment and thank you for the support. Appreciate you, pal. Jonathan, it was nice not to hear Juwan Taylor's name tonight. And I actually put that in my notes as well. Like, hey, very quiet night for him. And he did a reasonable job on Hunter. We told you about Hunter and Wall on the. If you guys missed that, make sure you tune in this week because we're giving you the lowdown of what's coming at you. I think Wanham is an underrated player. Marcus Davenport even got involved. Yeah. But for the whole, other than those 3 plays, I feel like the tackles did all right tonight.
Yeah, they got inside on some loops. That's where you really saw the pressure come in, which We told you again on Friday you might see some loops from the Minnesota Vikings because they worked so well. Yeah, they got a sack on one of them at least, and they got some pressure on another one. So it's a tough spot. But I think at the end of the day, the tackles did a pretty good job, and Smith seems to be leveling out a little bit. He's been very up and down. Right now, he seems to be kind of just steady, where he's got some missteps, and other than that, I think he's playing pretty well. So the run game is just going to be inconsistent. Today, they still try to establish it, which is a good sign for them going forward, and that's going to help them win games. They've got to find the best run plays for them. I'm going to tell you right now, Isaiah Pacheco, for everything that he is, ran into multiple defenders today. Just blatantly ran into them. I don't know why he didn't see them, but he didn't. And that was unfortunate. So there's going to be some irritations here.
It's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop there, or I'm going to say something I'm going to regret. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Brent. I don't understand why Veach didn't bring in an elite receiver to take the load off of Kelce. Do you really think a 34-year-old tight end would stay healthy most of the season? Honestly, there's no reason not to think so. Travis has been very healthy most of his career. So I don't think it was like he wasn't paying attention to precedent. I agree with you. I probably would have worked harder to get D-Hop, and I think D-Hop probably regrets being in Tennessee. I don't know. Just from what I saw today, it looked pretty miserable to me. So
yeah.
But in the end, it's about the money. And Chris wasn't in, and he didn't have any money to spend. You couldn't get it done. We'll see what happens next season because, we're going to be right back in the same situation with Chris Jones.
Yep.
So let Chris earn himself what he can. Knicks fan, I'm glad you're digging it. I think we're seeing what their plan is for this season. Yeah. So locking that down, I feel better about. German, I like where you're at. Rice over Skyy, Ross over MVS. Ross needs, let's be honest. Ross dropped 2 balls today. He got 4 targets. He dropped 2 of them. 50%. I put those drops on him. Incompletions on him. One was a blatant drop. He's not quite there yet. But when you let him do what he can do, especially the high balls, that's what he's built for. That's what he's great at. Honestly, he tracks over his shoulder very well as well. Let him do some of the MVS out routes and just go on those goes. I'm okay with that. But he's not. I don't think he has the top end speed any longer of what MVS is. So that's an issue.
He's almost going to be like a possession receiver, or you take some shots. He's not going to be able to separate deep. And that's something that he may never, ever get back. His speed just might not be there anymore. And we have to remember that's still something that is going to be hampering him a little bit. So he might just be a possession receiver, but you can use his athletic ability and his ball winning ability in this offense. We saw the want to do that today. 3 times we saw some jump balls. Travis nearly had 2 of them. Travis isn't, he's not labeled a ball winner, but he does well enough that Patrick clearly feels okay doing it. And I got no problems with it myself. So just a little bit at a time, incorporate it into the offense just a little bit, and I think they'll be just fine.
I agree. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel, hit the like on this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you get the next one. Matt, thank you for your support. Appreciate the super sticker.
Appreciate
Devil. Do we have a realistic chance of trading for an elite receiver? Probably not.
That's a 0.
They didn't have a realistic chance of trading for a crap receiver like Claypool. So, no, I don't think that's going to change. I'm really intrigued by that, by the way, that he got taken to Miami. I was not prepared for that.
I've heard, let's say that this is just probably not accurate because he can't block. But I have heard that they might use him as a tight end, but he need to put on some weight and play with effort and block. So that's probably not happening.
Well, that was my original concept for him coming out as well. But all those things were prerequisites, just like you said. So I don't know if I see that either. Matt, thank you for super sticker number 2. Appreciate you. I'm just trying to separate them a little bit here. DJ, what happened to Leo at edge? It worked well when they used it. Kind of. I will say this. What you saw from Leo, especially on that sack, he was not the edge. He was the overhang. He was the guy outside the edge. The edge was being set by the defensive end. And that's why he got a free run at the quarterback, because they didn't account for him. They underestimated his athleticism and the ability to get to the quarterback. And I think that's great. Keep doing that. Every other team that's coming, keep doing that.
Yeah, this is going to be game plan based. So you saw early in the season, we saw a lot of that 3 defensive linemen and adding Leo down there as your pseudo fourth or your 3-3 defense, however you want to call it. They're probably not going to do that every single week. And some weeks are going to be different, and that's okay that they're going to be different. Just kind of have to remember that at the end of the day, they're trying to get pressure in multiple different ways, in multiple different looks. They're going to try a bunch of different things. So Leo's good right now. He's being used very well. You know, the coverage stuff is just going to be a little bit of a headache at times, and you got to have to live with it. But if he's on the field more, teams will attack him more in the passing game. So instead, maybe just have him rush the passer. I don't know. I would just love to see him do that a little bit more.
Honestly, bump FAU and George out to wide 9s and let him rush from inside, because he's great in the B gap.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Stand up rusher as a 3 tech. I'm here for it.
Ding, ding, ding. All damn day until they prove they can stop it. And Roger, that's what we're talking about. I'm not trying to lump you in, but you guys are talking about the same topic, so I just wanted to get there. And Matt, super sticker number 3. Appreciate you, buddy, very much. And thank you all for being with us tonight. Last question from Gary, one of our mods. Everybody give Gary a hand. Who do you feel the Chiefs toughest teams the Chiefs will play this year? Bills, Eagles, Bengals. I'm glad the Bengals got back on track for the Bengals fans. I'm not sold that they're what they were. Just saying. So for me, it's still Eagles followed by the Bills.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, the Eagles have been the better team of all of them so far. Like, the Bills have been really up and down. The Bengals have been down mostly, and then they had a good game today against the Cardinals. You're not really convincing me of anything. You know, Jamar Chase is still Jamar Chase. Cool. I knew that. Like, you didn't
right.
Nothing the Bengals did today shocked me by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't believe Joe Burrow is back. I know he was off the injury report this week. I don't buy that for anything. So it's the Eagles, then it's the Bills, then it's the Bengals. But I do believe when they play them, they're going to have their best performances. For those teams will play up to snuff against the Chiefs. So you'll see really good performances from them.
I do agree. I'm happy to see it. So last super chat of the night, just for that, Austin had a question. So looking at Thursday night, how many key players will miss the Broncos game with injuries and they need to nurse? It'll definitely be Kelce, in my opinion. It may be Bolton, and I think they'll be okay either way.
Agreed. Just show up.
Yeah.
Please.
Honestly, a couple of late injuries. Tranquil has a knee. It looked like he was shook up at one point, but he did come back in the game. We'll see how he responds to treatment. And on that very last play of the game where Mike Dana got a sack, he did injure his ribs.
He looked hurt.
Yeah. So we're going to get an injury report on Tuesday. We'll have more info for you as we come along the week, guys. Again, make sure you join us on Friday, because that's when we wrap it all up and get ready for the next ball game. Not this week, obviously, because it's Thursday night football. But get ready for that. So we'll probably get the film room out on time, and we'll probably do another kind of stream maybe Wednesday night. Get ready for Thursday. We'll see. Be equipped. So that means you got to like, you got to sub, and you got to hit that bell so you get it. Last question of the night, and we'll let you all get out of here. Teddy, thank you for your support, pal. 4th time in 5 games of the O, hasn't played up to standard. What are your thoughts on just generally what's the problem?
So I think today they played well. I'll be honest. I think that they played pretty well today. Yes, you had some inconsistencies, but that's going to be natural in the NFL. The 3 games where they didn't play up to snuff, it was obvious. Like, they played against the Jets, they played against the Detroit Lions, who currently have a top 10 defense in the NFL. Interesting, very weird. And the second game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are a really good defense. I don't know what's going on down there, but they have the exact same players that they had last year, and that defense is heads and tails better than it was last year. So they're impressive. A fantastic defense. Like, they were giving the Bills everything they can handle. They've been lapping people up. So I'm pretty confident that this game was in the right direction. They had some little inconsistencies with their run game. They were some too predictable at times. In some of the play calling, the decision making, excuse me, was a little lackluster in this game that made it look worse than it was, in my opinion.
Fair enough. You know, they get another chance to wrap it around the Broncos and send them into oblivion because Lord knows they need it. We're going to talk about that coming up for Thursday night. We will have content for you. It should be a whippoorwill here coming at you this week. It'll be a lot compressed, but thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. Every super chat, we very much appreciate you. Get into the memberships. Down, there's a join button below, Dan. Get clicked into that so you get the extra content, my notes, whole 9 yards. If you missed last week's notes, I did repost them again today just so everybody has the link. You can get that by being a rookie member or above. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, 7 Central. Get you all your questions answered, especially when we get more information from tonight. So thanks for being here, Dan. Thanks for taking the time away from the fam.
No problem, guys. Make sure you check out tomorrow's Q&A. Again, that's when you're going to have all the questions that you guys wanted answered. Tomorrow night, we'll get to all those. And enjoy Sunday Night Football. It looks like the Cowboys might get slaughtered tonight by the 49ers. But, you know, that's just kind of how it works nowadays. So you guys have
Come on, CD. I need some output. Have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow.